talking all that bullshit. I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends Pod. I'll be steering this ship as it goes down like a good captain.
You are a good captain going down with the ship, Berk. I'll be your first
Brian
mate.
and I will be playing the violin.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be the guys up there just like, fuck it, here we go.
We're your co-first mates.
I'm excited for Friday's 5-hour-long podcast where it's just me.
I'll be here.
Just so.
I'll be here.
I'll be here for the first 2 hours. After that, you can have the final 3.
I would have faith that you could pull that off, a 5-hour solo podcast.
Oh,
I would
for
easily
sure.
back you to do
A filibuster would be kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, I
Just
think
ready to 25 hours.
Yeah.
You're like, I've held back these last 3 years. I got some things to say.
People about to get torched on Friday.
That'd be
Shit
amazing.
going
The
down.
last episode was just everything you've not said over the last however many years.
I'm just going to empty my Twitter drafts folder.
Right.
If we get 25,000 concurrent, we'll keep the pod going.
No. Well,
We're not going to get 25,000 concurrent.
no, we're not. We're definitely not.
And this time it's not a fake ending of the podcast like in Tahoe.
Oh, Tahoe?
Did we end the podcast
Remember
in
what
Tahoe?
we said last podcast? Like we were saying it was the last episode. It's not the first time we've said this is the end of it.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I've had a lot of people ask me if this was a joke.
I know we definitely didn't.
It's not a joke.
We haven't podcasted from Tahoe. I know that for sure.
No.
Where did we
Big
go?
Bear. Big
Big
Bear.
Bear.
Was it Big Bear?
Yeah.
Oh,
that we might have said, yeah.
that wasn't Big. How far away is Tahoe from Big? We went.
They're not close.
They're not.
Are you stroking
No,
out
not
right
even-
now?
not
No,
exactly.
I mean we went.
Big
This is
Bear's
when did you tell me that it makes sense that I got bullied when I was younger?
I have no idea.
Remember we went to an escape room with Nikki?
I have no idea. That was
Big Bear.
But
That was when Guapo had an
will say
IQ
this.
of 48.
Right,
I
that
will
was
say
when
this.
Conrad was in his robe
I
the whole
like
time.
Tortoise and Guapo.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's why Landon remembers this, because you traumatized the fuck out of him.
I don't know when I said that, but I definitely stand by it.
It was after the escape room. We were going back, and you said, "I see
Oh
why you
man,
can do that."
I don't remember what happened.
What did you do to bring this
I don't
on,
remember.
Landon?
It was something in a van.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
He
What was it?
He was being
he was
insufferable.
No, it was not in the van.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't. It was when we were walking back to the van.
Yes, it was
Okay.
outside the van.
Yeah, that's
It was
true.
outside the van.
I did regret it in the moment. I remember
you
that.
didn't.
Yeah, I did. I felt very remorseful on the drive back, but now I double down.
What the hell's wrong with you, man? Yeah. It's coming full
Enough
circle.
time has passed. I
Wait,
double
I
down.
want to know
now.
what Landon did.
I don't remember exactly, and I don't even think it was anything worth him saying this.
No, well, you're right because I felt remorseful.
I think it
in
was
the
because
moment.
of the escape room, but I don't remember why.
No.
It was after the escape room, though, because we were going back, because Melissa wanted to go to the Bear Zoo.
Well, that was the whole trip,
Yeah,
so that's
well-
difficult to place a moment in time.
It was-
Literally, the whole trip was just Melissa saying, "When are we going to the Bear Zoo?"
Because Conrad didn't come with us and do the team bonding activities. Conrad
Right.
was in his robe,
Right.
He
pretending
was
to be
not
sick.
a team player.
I don't remember. Honestly, I vaguely remember this happening, and I feel like it was an opportune joke. Like it was a clear moment where it was gonna get a laugh.
A nice slam dunk, easy.
Yeah, like
layup.
yeah. I don't think you were actually doing anything to warrant it, which is why I felt.
That's what I'm telling you. I said I don't think I did
remorseful.
anything that bad.
Yeah, I think
you
that's
just
why I
really
felt
wanted to
pretty
say
remorseful.
it.
I do remember laughing.
Yeah.
So you were going for like it's so ridiculously over the line that it's funny.
Yeah.
But in the end, you just hit it's really over the line,
Right.
and no one thought it was that funny.
No, they thought it was funny.
No, the laugh was there, hon.
Okay.
The laugh was there. It's kind
The
of
ends justified the means.
right. It's kind of similar to how we call him Lenny from Of Mice and Men. It's like it's
wow,
really
that's not-
fucking mean.
Yeah, that's mean.
But man, is it hilarious when you get the timing of it right?
Yeah, man. There's some Lenny moments.
Yeah,
Everyone has
like-
Lenny moments just because I'm tall and like animals.
Yeah. Be careful with that new cat.
I
Yeah.
honestly,
Come
that was good.
Yeah, it's funny.
Great one. And I think that there's a lesson to be learned here. Like, we went to the well one too many times to the point where we hurt your feelings. You expressed that, and then we realized, like, okay, this is one of those things that's so sensitive that we have to wait for the absolute funniest time to pull it out of your bag.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't wait to the
you're right.
funniest moment.
Hey, that's on me.
I know it's on you.
I need to learn my comedic timing, and I get it. I'm working on it.
Right, real funny guy.
I haven't called you Lenny in a long time, and trust me, there have been times where I've fucking taken the whole Of Mice and Men gif and put it in the group chat and then deleted it.
Wow, what a real hero. Real saint.
That was for you, buddy.
Yeah, put him in the rafters.
Looking out for you.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, we're winding this thing down, so we thought we would bring Hunt back for one final appearance.
Let's go.
Last hurrah.
Couldn't have you miss the final week.
It's a sad time. I mean, you guys are clearing out the office today. I showed up and there was a big dumpster outside and everything's getting thrown in the trash and it's very sad.
It is.
Yeah, if you're a Vegas local and you want any sort of merch or desks.
Or if you're in the need of an office chair.
Yeah, if you need office
if
chairs,
you definitely need an
desks.
office chair, get into my
Or if you
my
need
DMs,
like
please.
a bunch of random artwork.
Seriously, if you need an office chair.
Yeah,
me
a
up.
lot of random. I don't even know what to call that sort of art, like shape art. We have laying around. Oh, a lot of stuff. In just come dump the dumpsters in our driveway. You don't got to knock. You don't got to do anything.
Just go for it.
Go for it.
Dumpster diving.
Yeah, there's a lot of valuable. Honestly, like, we're throwing away stuff that I'm like, this is worth something.
Those
But
WPT chips were nice.
yeah, we just threw away 3 racks of WPT chips. I can't do this. I can't be the one to decide because
You want to keep everything?
I'm not a pack rat, but I recognize there's inherent value to things that, like, you know, when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of stuff, so I overvalue things that I've accumulated now. Like, my closet's a disaster. I have shirts in there from fucking when I was 12 years old.
Right.
And I wear those more than a lot of the other shirts that have seemed to manage to pass every single cut that I go through. So I'm not really good at getting rid of junk, so to speak.
I have to fight the urge to like keep some stuff. I'm like, no, we just gotta like throw as much.
Yeah,
stuff
like that
away as
igloo.
possible.
There's a really nice igloo in there that I was just like, fuck it.
Well, the thing is that I wouldn't feel bad giving it away.
Right.
I would give all of it away.
Right.
I feel bad throwing it away.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like, every time I move, I'm like, I don't want to throw stuff away, but I have so much crap that I don't need, and it just feels bad to throw it away, but you just like, you have to weigh it up.
Let's be honest. Most of the stuff we're throwing away is junk and needs to be tossed.
I mean, it depends how you define junk. We're throwing away like 5 desks.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those 3 black desks in there are really
Oh,
nice.
those are really nice.
You know what
Those
you
should
could
not
do?
be thrown away.
You know what you could do? Facebook Marketplace.
No. No.
If you really didn't like your time,
It's just too much of a chore.
Unless you've done this, Landon, I'm telling you, people are super flaky. They'll tell you they'll be there at a certain time. You have to allocate like 2 hours. Sometimes
I
they don't show up.
know. I know
I'm
about the
telling you,
marketplace woes.
the real play here is to put a sign on the dumpster that says, actually not garbage, help yourself.
Right.
You know, it's just like but we're in a gated community, so it's like you got to fight through that process too.
Well, the gate code is.
Yeah, we're leaving.
Yeah, it doesn't matter now, right?
Fuck it, let's go.
We just got to survive a week and we're good.
But yeah,
Poker Karen's gonna be coming after us.
Christ,
God.
that guy. Yeah, no, I definitely feel a lot of guilt over throwing something. Like, we threw a perfectly good cot away. Frame is fine. Cot, I mean, this stuff feels like it
Some
could
of
be
those poker pieces, like the art.
donated.
Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely felt like, I don't know about sadness. I don't know that I feel sad. I feel something though. It's the end of an era.
Yeah,
You know?
it really is.
It's good to know that you feel at least something.
Oh, well, I can't define it, so do I really feel it is the question. To be determined, I guess. But deep down inside of me, there's like
Inside
this
your
little
cold, dead
tiny,
heart. Yeah.
there's this little tiny voice going, "Oh no, don't do it, let me out." Don't you want to do 700 more episodes?
Oh man.
Do you want to do 700
episodes.
more episodes?
Wow.
Kinda. I mean, I enjoy it. I just I get nothing out of it.
I think we said we were gonna do 1,000 then quit, so we got 300 more to do.
Yeah, probably not.
You know
Well,
what?
I want to set up Landon's room, whether you like it or not. So I'm going to be in your house setting up the studio, and if you ever want to fire it up.
Okay.
I don't know what you're gonna do without a platform to, tell everyone what you're thinking every day.
Have you heard of Twitter, sir?
I was segueing into that.
I've been
I was
off these
segueing
streets.
how much worse is your Twitter account going to get over the next like couple of months?
I mean, I've been off these streets for quite some time. I will say the podcast has been very cathartic in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's prevented me. My drafts folder is chock full. Chock full.
Let it fly,
of
Bert.
things I didn't have to say on Twitter that I just got to come over here and say instead. And yeah, you're right. I really do appreciate it. I also appreciate, like, you know, the long form aspect of it, the nuance of it. The conversation on Friday with Petrangelo is a fantastic example. If that had started in a Twitter exchange, which we'll actually get to because it turned into a Twitter exchange, shout out to DNegs. But if that had began and ended with a Twitter exchange, at some point I for sure would have been called an idiot, because it's impossible to convey tone. It's impossible to convey nuance. And I would have been relegated into the corner of envious cash guy who is pooping all over high stakes MTTs, which isn't my intention at all. I think that it's amazing that we have an arena that is able to kind of showcase the most talented in this space. I just think the business model of it needs to change. Like, if ever there's going to be a spot in poker where players are paid to play and don't have to put up buy-ins, it's the high roller MTT
Makes a lot of sense.
circuit, right? Yeah, because like, you know, they're just not making much.
Right. And you're just incentivized. And like people say, well, if you don't have skin in the game, then like, but you do, right? It's like professional baseball players. They don't like make money if they win. They just make money because they have a contract. But they have a contract because they're good and they perform, and they continue to perform well, so they can get another contract.
Yeah, you can't just hit 215. Right. You can't just hit 215 with 300 strikeouts.
Don't do this.
And
I wish the Pirates' average was 215.
Right. Well, I'm saying as a superstar, you can't hit 215, strike out 180 times, and expect to get a max
contract.
deal.
Maybe,
right, exactly.
Maybe the answer is something kind of merged between a salary and incentive-based bonus.
Oh, for sure. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where,
Yeah,
like, if you perform like to a certain degree and you hit like 10 million.
We've talked about
in
this
the
a
year or
lot.
something,
Yeah,
then you get
what's weird is
X
the
percentage.
global poker league was actually kind of an interesting concept. It's just they completely botched the execution of it, where they divided players into teams, and like they had, like they tried to make it more familiar for people who know how traditional sports works.
Yeah.
And they had a structure that was attempting to turn tournament poker into something that people could recognize from just knowing how regular sports work. And they botched it, like I say, and it never went anywhere. But I do feel like there's some scope for a model that at the highest level allows for competition to exist that isn't just based around whoever has X amount of dollars to buy into a tournament. Is like, that's how we build the business model. You know?
Yeah, I think that they might not have botched it as much as it appears. It's just the execution was like very poor. The open
Isn't that what botched it means?
Well, botching it in my mind means that the model was broken.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not positive that's true. And the reason I say that is because it's already currently being executed in a very similar model. Like a half a dozen guys are effectively drafting like 90% of the high roller pools, and they're investing, right? And we don't know what chunk of that pool is only playing for their markup, but it's non-zero.
Yeah.
Right. So the people that are strictly just playing for their markup free roll, like say they sell at 1.03 and they're playing for that 3% free roll or whatever it works out to be, like 2.8%, whatever. And that's strictly what they play off of. That's effectively the model that we're talking about, right? Built prize pools for the players to benefit some percentage of, and you know, you could break it down in a more reasonable way, whether you're talking about salaries, contracts, or like rev share of the prize pool, where like, you know, everyone who plays earns 1%, and then there's, you know, you increase that percentage depending on where you play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But effectively, at the end of the day, this would be very similar to, I think, Martin Jacobson compared it to like golf. And I think I think Kerry had the right idea modeling the Poker Go Tour after the PGA. I think where the mark is missed is that the PGA comes with no buy-ins, right? It just comes with fixed prize pools. So either you go that route, and now players can qualify to get into the PGA Tour, or in this instance, the Poker Go Tour.
Interesting.
The PGT.
How? Satellites?
You need sponsors.
Point accumulation. So like the way it works in PGAs, Pro-Ams, where you have to make cuts. I'm not fully.
That's kind of cool if it's possible though to have like opens and
so like say you're playing like you don't even need to run the opens yourself. They already exist. The circuits, the WPTs, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
You just give a point system to every event that runs.
I see. So you can just like use that versus do it yourself.
Yeah. So like you accumulate 1,000 points. You're now qualified for the Pro-Am. If you make the cut, call it 25% of the field. Now you can.
You'd be like almost like you could be like the top whatever of GPI,
right?
Something like that.
And I guess you
are
would,
in, and then if you're on the cusp, then you need to play more. And you need
would you make tournaments all be freeze outs?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Yeah,
but the big reason why that conversation isn't important is because re-entry benefits everybody right now to get volume in. Right. But volume doesn't matter anymore if you're not putting up your own buy-ins.
Right. I think there's another really interesting model as well that I don't know if this is how it works sometimes in US sports, but in cricket, in the Indian Premier League, which is going on right now, they have a model where every year or in particular every few years when a lot of the contracts run down, they have a player auction where it's literally there's a pool of players that players can enter their names into the auction. And it's done like a regular auction. You have literally every team has like 5 people at a table in a room. And there's this big 3-hour thing where the teams are all bidding on the players.
Right.
And they have a certain amount of salary budget that they can bid. And depending on, how they want to allocate it, there's a whole team structure and things like that. And I wonder if because of the nature of how like that in itself becomes an attraction. I feel like there's some sort of hybrid model that can be created where if you just have a pool of players that are eligible to be drafted, you can then have people who's like, oh, I'm going to draft this guy. I'm going to pick this team.
Well, that was the other play. That was where I was going with saying that it's already kind of being executed that way.
Right. That's kind of, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. So like, let's say that instead of individuals, let's say that we have owners, and a lot of those owners are just like casino heads, right? Because it would make sense that locations now would want to have some skin in the game. So like maybe the MGM puts together a team, maybe Caesars puts together a team, Wynn puts together a team, et cetera, right? What you basically described is how free agency works in American sports.
Okay, yeah.
So their contracts run up. Now they're free agents to the entire league. And they don't sit in an auction house and do the bidding, but the agents do the bidding with the owners until they get the best deal for the player. Right?
Yeah.
And he chooses his location based on that.
And I think there is scope, like you say, to have a sort of ownership format where in the same way that right now you have backing stables that are, there are people who are like this such and such as an owner of a stable, right? Why not just formalize that and have it be literally there's franchises, there's teams, there's a structure, and you can have a point system for the players where they get a contract and their goal is to just get bonuses based on how many points they earn by winning tournaments, but like it's an entire system that once you get to a certain point, you sort of graduate beyond the level of actually needing to have X amount of buy-ins to fund your own. You're getting a contract.
Yeah,
right?
It becomes interesting because in the two models, it's very different, right? So the PGA model would require, let's say those same casinos as the example, to just put a fuck ton of money up as the lead sponsors. And say like, this event brought to you by Aria, you know what I mean? Or MGM, whatever.
Or any kind of sponsor.
Yeah, exactly. Alexis, whatever. But they're putting up the prize pools, right? Which means that poker needs to be marketable. That might be a little bit more difficult. The other model, though, would just be instead of the individuals creating the prize pool, the owners would be creating the prize pool. So if you have like a dozen casino heads that are drafting 10 players apiece and putting up the buy-ins, now instead of it being $100K per player, it'd be like 1.25 million per casino. Obviously, you'd need a little bit over like the 50K for rake and whatnot, right? But it'd be like 1.25 million per per casino ownership. That then creates the prize pool. Now you allocate your rev share based off your roster. You know, maybe your best guy is getting like 8% rev share, where like your worst guy's getting 1, but you have to have, you know, some sort of revenue distribution. You could work within a salary. There's a million ways that you could structure it. It's just a matter of finding a way to make it appealing to the people who are putting up money.
Yeah.
In either regard. Right. I think the latter one, like where it's more of a fantasy sport or like, you know, kind of the esports model. This is how esports works in a large way.
Yeah, esports don't pay for their buy-ins.
Right. I think that model is a lot more attractive to our space because the pool is very small, so you don't need a ton of ownership necessarily, and it's an easier sell within the poker sphere itself, right? You just sell to gaming, so you sell to sports betting, you sell to casinos. Like, you don't need to branch that far out. If you create a PGA like tour, you need to start bringing in major sponsorship like Lexus.
I guess in the team situation, you'll have to try to find ways to like police collusion.
Yeah.
Where like that's not really much of a thing in other sports.
That's fair.
You know, like in esports, it's team versus team. You're on the same team.
Right.
In poker, it's an individual.
Here's
Just
an
legalized
interesting-
collusion?
Yeah, like this was going to be my suggestion. Like, no, I'm not necessarily saying just completely legalize it, but like just accept the reality that players who are on the same team have partially similar incentives, and you know, create some sort of system where they are incentivized to prioritize themselves above the team. But it works in other sports. If you guys are familiar with Formula One has a system where each team has 2 drivers, and there will frequently be situations where both of the drivers will be sort of jockeying for position within a race, and the team will kind of openly have to prioritize one driver because that driver is in a position to win the championship and the other one is not.
Correct.
Right? So the drivers just have to accept that and deal with that.
And it'll be obvious too, right? Like to all the racers, it's very clear which of the 2 drivers will be prioritized. Same thing will happen in this. As you're coming down the championship stretch, so to speak, you'll see situations where it's like, okay, team member A is in a comfortable point position to make the playoffs, but team member C is not. So they're going
to all the chips.
No, the opposite. Like if A has all the chips,
well, I just mean if C
A would then protect C to try to get him in.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was thinking about it if C could not get in at all, but A was short. C just dumps the chips
same
over.
thing.
And everybody knows that's happening, and now part of the game is to prevent that from happening.
Exactly. If you build it into the structure of the game, there's no problem with it.
Yeah, that is kind of the thing. The trouble with collusion, so to speak, is the fact that it's
secret.
Right, correct.
Exactly. And people are being cheated out of money.
Yeah,
But if the money's already paid and everybody knows what's going on and everybody knows what everybody's incentives are and it's completely upfront, then what's the problem anymore? You just turn poker into a partial team sport.
Yeah.
MTTs are kind of a team sport. Like when it comes to studying
we've had this discussion many times before, and I've mentioned these suggestions a lot. And I do like the idea behind it. I think, as with anything, the difficulty becomes getting the money behind it.
That's always the biggest hurdle.
Finding distribution. Like if they could, I mean, this is like the go to Netflix idea, you know, because off of that, immediately you can build a drive to survive type of thing. Right. And the thing is, you can cherry pick from all of these different elements. Like if you don't go the PGA side, which I think is the harder choice, because we're not that marketable yet to bring in big sponsors. Right. And you do go more of the esports fantasy draft, whatever you want to call it, which is by and large already happening. Petrangelo spoke at length about this. One guy buying up a half a dozen to a dozen guys' actions. You know, some percentage of the pool is strictly playing based off of their free roll. Other percentages are buying pieces back. It's the same thing, right? Like if you're playing for 2.5% of yourself in free rolling, versus like maybe a Jason Kuhn who might have started off playing like for 10 or 15% of himself and then was able to buy back a lot of equity and maybe is playing for half or, you know, swapping out or whatever the case may be. The point system that is created will incentivize owners to divvy up the rev share in very specific ways. Everybody will be incentivized. It's much more of a meritocracy, and it's achievable because we have people within the space that would want to get it done. And honestly, like if you bring PokerGo into the fold, where maybe they own a team or whatever. Now maybe it doesn't have to go behind the paywall. Maybe this is their next big idea that, instead of putting it behind their paywall, they put it out for free for a season, catch the eyes of Netflix, and then sell it to them for a large number.
Yeah.
I mean,
it kind of takes away like the gambling stigma from poker too, sort of.
In that arena, for
Right.
sure.
Where it's like you're not risking your own money anymore, and you can't like go broke and be destitute or whatever.
And
All of a sudden, it's just
It creates a pure
game.
competition.
Right.
And it has the benefit of also sort of reducing that aspect where at high stakes, there's a lot of, I don't want to say stigma, but there's a lot of sort of suspicion that goes on around the idea of players having
swapping
and sharing action. And a lot of like, there's a certain amount of the rec player community that sort of delegitimizes nosebleed tournaments because of the fact that they recognize there's so much action selling and there's like a 250K buy-in where somebody has 5% of themselves, and it's like, well, what's the point in even having it be a 250K anymore, right? Why do we have the same guys play for 100% of themselves in a 5K? Like there's a certain amount of that goes on. So I think that creating this type of environment where the buy-ins are not the main thing anymore is, I think, a really good long-term focus for the game.
Especially because now it incentivizes players to want to be in that arena.
Exactly.
I have I've said this many times, but there's nothing incentivizing me to want to change directions to go that route except for ego. That would be the only reason, because you're taking a pay cut, you're entering 100x more of a competitive environment.
Yeah.
And you're doing so where you have to put up maybe 10x the capital that you have to put up for stakes that I'm currently playing. And it's just like, all for what?
I think the difference-ish is that the people that are playing these do have other people putting up the buy-ins for them.
To some degree, I don't know how many people get like sweet backing deals, but outside of like some sort of like 40, 60, 50, 50 split.
A backing deal or selling yourself for some markup.
Selling for markup or even getting like a partial backing deal isn't going to... Okay, so like this can carry us into the DNegs tweet, which, if nothing else, at least the man watches the show. You got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's partially responsible for killing it, but he's watching it.
Also true. We can discuss that shortly thereafter, but given that this happened, shortly after the Nikki P episode, where basically we went through this entire tweet verbatim, I'll assume he saw the episode.
Yeah, it's a bit of a subtweet. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, for sure. So he makes really great points, though. He said, in 99, if you traveled the world playing the highest stakes tournaments, you could spend roughly 250K. 2013, that rose to roughly 1.2 million. By 2025, that number is roughly 12 million, which a lot of people jumped in and said, okay, that's a bit of an overestimation unless you're playing the $1 million buy-in for 2 bullets, blah, blah, blah. But still, let's say on average it's somewhere between 8 and 10. His point is not lost. He said you need the cash for 12 plus million to turn a profit if you play everything. In 2024, only 3 people cashed for 12 million. Adrian Mateos for 13.1, Patrick Antonius for 12.5, and Lococo for 12.2. Man, I thought Ike had a huge...
Lococo cash for...
Because he won the Bahamas.
Triton.
He won the big
Bahamas,
Triton.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
He won the Invitational.
I didn't even know he played Tritons. Wow.
It was like his first one.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Holy
He
shit.
won He was on the rec side of the Invitational.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
I thought Ike had a huge year last year. Or
It
was
was
that 2
that
years
was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years
That
ago?
That was when we
23.
went to the Bahamas.
2 years
for the
ago.
podcast.
Okay. Okay, so 3 people cashed over 12 million. He said, not everyone will hit every stop, but among the high roller regs that play most of them, I think spending 10 million is reasonable considering every Triton stop will run you about 2 million in buy-ins, which I think there are 4 a year, so that's pretty fair. He said only 3 other players cashed for 10 million plus. Foxton at 11.5, Tamayo 10.2, main event. So he's not even playing the high
Like the
rollers.
main plus like a tiny amount of other stuff.
That's,
Right,
that's
I
just
mean,
an outlier.
Effectively,
Right,
you could put Tamayo, cross him off the list because
Right.
he didn't do it playing high rollers.
Right. There'll be that one person every year that gets that $10 million score.
Yeah. And then Daniel DeVoris at 10.2. He said 40 other players cashed for over 5 million, while 121 players cashed for more than 2 million. A whopping 259 players cashed for over 1 million in 2024. This is a really important note to make because, as he mentioned, in 2013, if you played everything, 1.2 million roughly in buy-ins, the mark back then was consistently cashing for over 1 million year over year. And I remember Mercier did it for like 6 or 7 years consistently.
Yeah, it was insane.
In 2016 and 17, I cashed for 1 million back-to-back years. And that was like the early early-ish stages of high roller still. And I remember that was a huge achievement for me at the time. Just thinking like, wow, this is like, I'm in rare air now when it comes to tournaments.
And one of those was
$1 million score.
It was a 300.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think I had whatever. It doesn't matter.
I'm the best.
So I think I cashed for like 1.5 and 1.2 back-to-back years. And I remember that was like a massive, okay, I'm done with tournaments now. Like I've done everything I need to do. Shortly thereafter, people were just like cashing for 10 million on the reg. And not even shortly thereafter, the first year I did it, Fedor cashed for like 11 million.
That was one of his like absolute heater.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, no one knew, I don't think, that was the new norm.
And then the year after that, Bonomo would have probably had like 10 plus, right?
Yeah.
Because the year after Fedor's heater was Bonomo's heater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we just saw it repetitively year over year over year. It was the new norm, right?
In the Adamo year, 2021. Like
Right.
every
Jason
year,
Kuhn,
there's one guy who like cashes for an insane amount.
Right. So this $1 million, 259 players cashing for over $1 million in 2024 no longer means anything unless you're the mid-stakes player of the year.
Right.
So if you're chasing that leaderboard, now cashing over $1 million, it's like it was back in 2013.
If you have an ABI of 1,000 and you cash for $1 million,
Even 3K.
3K, yeah.
Even 3K, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's 300 binds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're still doing really fucking well.
Right.
So he goes on to say, most every pro who is playing this kind of high roller schedule is selling action or swapping. If you see a pro who played them all, cash for $7 million a year, he likely lost $3 to $5 million. I would say he likely broke even, but neither here nor there. That's just semantics. However, they didn't actually lose that much at all, if anything. If they only sell markup, if they only sell at markup, they can lose $3 to $5 million, but still show a profit personally. What he means there, he talks about it in future tweets, but basically what he's saying is if they only play for their free roll,
Right.
They could easily lose $3 to $5 million for the people buying, but show a 3% ROI
Right.
themselves.
Every cash they make is money in their pocket.
So they might make like $200K for the year. Their the people buying their action may lose $3 to $5 million. Very reasonable. Then he goes on to say most high rollers have a turbo-like structure which increases variance and lowers the pro's ROI significantly, as a lot of these events have become a folding battle focusing on ICM and laddering pay jumps while flipping some coins along the way. If you want to make a good living as a tournament player, your best bet is to focus on low to mid-stake buy-in tournaments. Low defined as 15 and below, mid-stakes defined as 2K to 10K. What you envision at the highest stakes is mostly a mirage. No one playing these rates to have an ROI over 5 million in any given year. Profitable years like that will happen, but they are anomalies rather than the norm. I think he's like way out of pocket with saying that. I don't know why he just like latched onto that number, but by saying nobody expects to have, or nobody rates to have an ROI over 5 million in a given year is implying that somebody is foolish enough to believe that they have 50% ROI in high rollers.
Right.
Like
Nobody thinks
obviously, I mean, maybe that's not obvious to the audience, so it's worth pointing out, but like wording it in dollar amount terms instead of ROI terms, I think gets very confusing.
Yeah. I mean, Petrangelo did say it's like the people that are like on fire, like, oh, this is easy. Of course I have like 30, 40%.
Right. And we were kind of talking about that a little bit in the group chat where I said, if you're Fedor in 2016 and you just sun run for 11 million, let's say he made 4 million that year. I have no idea. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't.
Right.
No one could ever know how much of a piece of himself he bought, but logic says people don't really plan for the long term when they make these short-term decisions. So as his heater grows, he's probably taking bigger and bigger pieces. He probably sees a larger return. Maybe, I don't know how many buy-ins he played that year, but for sure they were lower that year specifically than years past. So like, let's say maybe he plays like 6 million in buy-ins, right? And he rips off 12. And let's say he had 30% of himself along the way. So now all of a sudden he has 30% of like 6 million in profit. Okay, cool, 2 million, right? What would incentivize you? I guess then the obvious answer is like not knowing your true ROI. But if you were to do that today, where you just rip off 2 to 4 million in profits, straight profits, like straight take home. Like let's say Jason Kuhn just says, I'm YOLOing it this year. I've made so much money. I'm just going to buy him for 10 million and see what happens. And he just cashes for 22.
Right.
Like what would ever make you enter the arena? I mean, he cashes for 15.
Whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Right.
What would ever make you enter the arena the following year, knowing that the probability is to just regress to the mean, right? Like you've just basically made like, if the assumption is that a generous ROI in these things, like you're the best player in the field, is like 10%, and your expectation on 10 million worth of buy-ins is like to make $1 million, and you make 4x that.
You made 4 years worth.
4 years of work, yeah.
Right, and obviously results are independent. You know,
You could do it again.
the next 25 tournaments you play have no bearing on the previous 25. But over the stretch of things, we know that there will be a regression to the mean. We know that you'll see your actual expected EV. And that's what Negron was trying to say is nobody actually nobody rates to have an ROI over 5 million a year. What he's saying is nobody's expectation is to sun run, right? If the average ROI is like 3 to 5%, and you have a fraction of yourself on 10 million worth of buy-ins, then your expectation is to make a fraction of 3 to 500K a year. Right. That's your EV. That's just what you're going to make year over year. Now, of course, it's not going to be a flat line like that. You're going to have massive ups and massive downs. You're going to have some years where like you make a couple million, and then you're going to have some years where you lose a couple million.
I think you're not playing like a full 2,000 hours though. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like you're playing probably somewhere between 500 to 1,000.
Okay.
And obviously there's probably some study in there somewhere too. So it's still like a full-time job, but there is more freedom than other things that you would do for the same amount of money.
But Daniel's point,
is that valid though?
It's valid, but it's I think it's taking away from Daniel's overarching point. If you just played 100% of yourself in open field events sub 10K, your ROI would be significantly higher on average.
As in, if you're playing roughly $1 million in buy-ins a year, but you own all of it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
very, very possible to have a 50% ROI.
Yeah. So now you're making 500,000 and you get to keep all of it instead of a fraction of 3 to 500,000.
Correct.
But you're playing probably around 2,000 hours in that situation.
Yeah. So maybe
you're playing more.
Okay, but even if you cut your volume in half,
your hourly is still way more if you play the smaller buy-ins.
But you could go on downswings and risk and lose money too.
But it's a lot harder to do that when your ROI is 50%.
It's also 10. Yeah, you're also still risking money and going on downswings in the other scenario.
I think most people that have really, call it, great deals for high stakes do play those tournaments as well. I don't know if it's either on or off the deal. Obviously,
I think
the backer
most
would
of them
want it to be on.
I think most of them get it off.
Some do, some don't. I have some friends that play Tritons, but
yeah,
as like value add back to the backer of those things, they like the 5K mains in Florida are on the stake and stuff too.
Yeah, a lot of the people I talk to get sub 10Ks on their own because they need to eat.
Yeah, and I think that's probably...
It's kind of just negotiating the problem with the backer, where it's like, hey, man, we're on razor thin edges here. It's going to take... I understand it's going to take a fuck ton of monetary volume out of you, and I'm willing to commit to that, but also I need to pay bills.
Now, if you're on a complete free roll, that's different, right?
It is different.
Because you're playing, and now every cash you have, you're putting some sort of money into your pocket.
Like everything you played was at a 10% free roll or something?
Something like that, right, yeah.
You can't get 10%
That's
free
way
roll.
too much, but let's
like
say...
3.
Yeah, we're going to say
sure.
3%, right?
3 or...
Right,
but
but
if you
now...
cash for $1 million, that's 30,000 in your pocket, but that's,
Well, no. So, like, nobody's going to have a stone free roll in Tritons and also only play for a stone free roll in... Like, you're not going to get apples to oranges there, right? Or apples to apples,
as in, like, play the main event with a 3% free roll, same thing as playing Triton.
So if you're taking say a 3% free roll in just all buy-ins 25K and above, and you cash for 10 million, you're going to make that's going to be your 300K,
right?
But that requires you having a profitable year over the course of 7 million worth of buy-ins, whatever.
Right.
To make 300K now in the small to mid stakes, you basically just need to play somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on what your actual true ROI is, somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 to $1 million worth of buy-ins.
Yeah.
And you can certainly get in more volume than that. Like you could probably pretty easily play 1.5 million worth of buy-ins. And on top of that, you can shot take the next tier up. So you'll still have a half a dozen great 25Ks to just shot at throughout the course of the year, where maybe you keep half of yourself, maybe you keep all of yourself from time to time, whatever the case may be. But point is that the way that I understand it, just from a sheer competitive field standpoint and available ROIs, are the guys like Darren Elias who kind of set ego aside and prioritize staying stateside, being with their family and playing really, really soft events, are almost certain to have a higher expected ROI year over year. The other guys will have a much higher ceiling year over year. Their sun runs will be substantially larger,
Right.
especially if they're like doubling down on the risk as they win. But it's just unsustainable, and I think that's the entirety of Daniel's tweet, at least the way that I kind of took it. And it also, I think it just like echoed a ton of what Petrangelo had to say when we were discussing this issue on Friday. And that was a lot of like what the podcast was about. I didn't mean it to be. Obviously, it was like
right.
It was just a really interesting topic to hear somebody who's in the arena kind of peel back the curtain.
Matt, have you seen this? So on not WPT, on Triton Poker, I noticed they actually do put in there how many times people did not cash.
Okay.
What's the database that we normally use to look at people's
Hendon Mob?
Hendon, yeah.
How difficult would it be for Hendon Mob to like know or not know how many times someone cashed or didn't cash?
Well, for Triton specifically, they could do it because the data seems to be public.
Yeah.
I don't know if that includes reentries or not.
The
Probably doesn't.
The data for other events just isn't public.
Yeah, and this probably doesn't also. This also doesn't seem to include reentry. We've done the legwork before. You can guess. If you assume that he has, let's say that they have a 50% rebuy rate and a 20% cash rate.
It's guesses, yeah.
Yeah, you can get a ballpark of like what the true ROI is over those years, but. The bigger question at hand. Well, actually, I guess I want to address this first. Go ahead.
You think it's? I guess it is, but you do have to play so much, and probably forsake Tritons if you're playing $1 million in buy-ins, 10K and under. You probably don't get to go play Triton, right? Because there's like circuit stops and stuff.
Right, and why would you want to? It's the most competitive, highest ranked arena in poker. The
rake is
it's only for I don't want to make this about people's choices, but like Nick kind of alluded to this. It's very much an ego thing about playing the biggest game in the room and being in the toughest competition.
It's not just ego. It's I guess
competitive spirit.
Competitive spirit.
You can soften the word.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think it's different if rake is lower? If rake was like 1%?
I mean, if it's rakeless, then I think that ROIs will grow quite a bit. But again, you're still probably capped at like 10%. Right? Like, there are so many mitigating factors that are going to dictate ROIs. And that's why the open fields are so challenging to figure out what a true ROI is. Like, I remember talking to Basebaldi where, like, he was just convinced he's winning like 300% in a 3,500 Florida main. And it's like, I don't think so, but
300%.
Maybe you just fucking are. It's like, who's to say? It seems very improbable. Just like the Brewer experiment in the main event, where it's like all these people selling at 2.0 and 2.5. It's like no one has a 200% ROI. And
you just
like,
don't play enough.
Probably
of
not.
Them. You just don't play enough of them to ever know.
Right. But like when you do the experiment that he did, where the whole field now becomes an option, and you just let people cherry pick 10 of their favorites. Right, 10 people who they feel are favorites to cash and do well in the event. Blah 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 blah. Brewer just wins still, because 200% is really fucking hard to beat.
Yeah,
in mass.
You could probably.
Last time they bet that they picked Karai and he won.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's gonna happen. Obviously, like there'll be people who get it right.
I mean, people probably would have picked Lena and won.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know that like Lena is going to come to the top of the list. That you have to remember. I
just mean if you pick 50 people, you have to cash for a total of $1 million.
Right.
So if you pick one outlier, you win.
Yeah. But if he's making the bet with 100 people,
Okay.
it's hard for each of them to pick an outlier.
Right, exactly.
The majority of them are going to miss the outliers.
There's going to be a few people
I
that
think-
they're going to beat them, but yeah.
I think most people would probably pick the same people though. Like I'm sure Fox is going to get picked in every group.
It's like being a book, right? Like if the favorite,
The chalk wins.
if the
Right.
chalk, so to speak, makes a deep run, then you get fucked that year.
Right.
But if you run the bet year over year over year, right? And the thing is like if you look historically, the pool of players that you would consider to be chalk don't perform all that well. They perform about the same as the rest of the pool, which is, not to say that their ROIs are all across the board the same. Obviously, there's 10 randos to every Foxen, but it is to say that over short term, variance wins.
Yeah. Unless maybe that changes if you get to pick 100 people. You see what I'm saying? Like there's a number where you kind of always pick someone that's probably in the final table.
Yeah, but
If you pick 1,000 people,
yes, but now you have to cash for what, 100 million?
is it 100 million?
Well, if you're picking
10
10
million.
people, 10 people's $1 million, right?
No. I thought it's
Or you pick
2.0. It's 2.0 markup. So if you pick 10 people, they have to cash for 200K.
Right. Yeah.
So if you pick 100 people, they have to cash for 2 million.
Right. Yeah. So if you pick 1,000 people, then they
20
have to.
million.
Yeah.
20 million.
Right. So you
That's-
have to pick the winner
And a couple final
a couple
tables.
other final table lists.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That
Yeah.
would be harder.
If you pick 10, you pick the best 10% of the main event field, do they cash for 20 million plus? Probably not. Right?
That's the right way to frame the question.
Yeah.
If you could cherry pick, if you could go back through last year's entry list, and somebody gave you the exercise of having no idea, somehow your memory got wiped, you have no idea where they finished, right? Or maybe even better, we could just go back to 2015 or something like that. They just give you the entry list and they say, okay, pick the top 700 players. I think you'd miss a lot.
The
Miss the winner?
I don't know about the winner, but you would miss half
All the
or
people that
more
are
of the final table.
Yeah.
The real way to do this would be to somehow data scrape Hendon Mob and exclude the main event from everybody's caches, and then take the top 200 people on Hendon Mob for lifetime caches, and figure out what their ROI lifetime in the main event is. Because if you can take all events other than the main event, you're removing the outliers who only cashed big in the main event one time.
Right.
And then if you looked at the top 200, 500, whatever it is on Hendon Mob lifetime, you'd have a reasonable sample of high quality
You
players.
want to know what the funny part is? I think you're right, and I think that's a fun exercise to go through. The funny part would be...
I tried to do it, but it's too difficult for someone with no skills like me. I don't have any programming knowledge. I don't have the skills.
You would just need to get... you would need to get the data imported to an Excel spreadsheet.
Exactly.
And then just start to sort.
I could probably ask ChatGPT to do it now,
Right.
but I tried it years ago.
The funny part is that list would largely be high rollers and mostly be young. And the argument then, which I saw a lot of people making towards Brewer when he offered this bet, is that high rollers aren't good in these fields because they're used to playing sit and goes. And so obviously you don't want Bonomo. You want Jonathan Tamayo.
Someone's trying to argue Bonomo's not crushing the main event. What fucking planet are you on?
Well, it's not that they're not crushing. It's just, maybe Bonomo doesn't have the 200% where Joe McKeon has 350.
He doesn't know how to play against bad players.
Yeah,
Exactly,
I just
Hunt.
don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get his ass in the 1-3 streak.
To be fair, though,
find out.
not to antagonize this argument because obviously Bonomo's crushing in the main, but I thought Nick brought up a really great point when we were talking. There are a lot of nodes that you'll run yourself into, particularly when playing against bad players, where you are getting back 0% of the pot if you invest any more money.
Yeah.
And a lot of good, solid, theoretically sound foundational people miss that.
It's not a fathomable understanding to just have a bluff catcher and win 0%.
The guys who I think actually do fit in that category are a lot of the online guys who came up really fast by just getting really, really good with implementing baseline GTO stuff in the space of a couple of years. And they've never actually spent any substantial time even at low to mid stakes. They just shot up the ranks. Those guys, I think that's one of the areas where there really is a blind spot of they've never been in this node before against someone who's just never bluffing.
You
right?
can just say Landon by name. I mean, he's here.
I wasn't even thinking about Landon. I was thinking about a lot of these Eastern
You
European,
weren't thinking about Landon.
Eastern European 22-year-olds.
Sven.
Yeah,
He's
the
thinking about
Svens,
Sven.
exactly.
Yeah.
The Svens.
Shout out to
That's
Sven.
what I was thinking of.
I mean, to be fair to Landon, like
Good price. You get like so much money back to one.
yeah. To be fair to Landon, like he learned the hard way. I
He
think
did.
he's finally
Yeah.
coming around to this notion that like no, in certain spots like you get no money back,
Right.
barring something really fortunate
Acts
happening.
of God.
Yeah.
So God.
I'm curious what you guys think about Mateos's pushback. He said, in my opinion, only 3 to 7 spend over 10 million in buy-ins annually. To be able to spend that amount, you can't miss any stop, play no limit PLO and short deck. Also, you need to be aggressive with rebuys. Last year, I played mostly all the stops and I spent way lower than that number. So it sounds like he was in the like 6 to 7 region while cashing for like 12 million. So obviously, he had a great year. He said most of the people who cashed for over 5 to 7 million had a great year. There's a lot of players playing for a big/decent percentage of themselves too. I think to try to simplify and generalize every player's situation is not accurate. Players have different bankrolls and schedules, even if they're playing the same type of tournaments.
It's a reasonable response.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows his data, and he's like, obviously, he's like pretty close to basically being the best guy in the field. But it's, anyone who has accurate data from their own buy-in levels is going to know better than DNegs generalizations. So it's obviously a reasonable response, I think.
That's fair.
It's hard when you are really good and cash for a lot and can be on the positive side
Right.
of
Yeah.
variance where you're probably winning, just how much. And if you have sun run years year
Right.
over year, it's hard to.
I'd be interested to see Brewer and Adrian have that conversation with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they're like two ends of the
It's like,
spectrum.
hey man, like you won the
Mhm.
big all in on the bubble and I didn't,
Yeah.
and I'm a billion in makeup and
It
you're
was like
rich.
it was against you, actually.
I kind of feel like Adrian's response, though incredibly reasonable and sounds like it's more accurate than Daniel's initial hypothesis. I feel like it's two ships passing in the night where they're kind of talking past each other and comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Because what Adrian is saying is in any one given year, good things can happen and you'll have a great return. What Daniel is saying is your average expected ROI or EV on your buy-ins is 3 to 7%. And no matter what, if that's the cap at what you can earn, 3 to 7, no matter how much you increase your buy-ins, you're just not doing as well as advertised,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, but it's not the cap, right?
The ROI, it has to be capped.
I mean,
Between the turbo structure, the rake, and the
How good everyone
difficulty
else
of the
is.
competition,
Yeah.
it's certainly, there's very little room for it to increase.
I guess what maybe
And
is an interesting question is how much of the field agrees that it's capped at that point versus how much of the
Yeah.
field is convincing themselves that
Right.
they have a way to have 10
if you have
or
one or two
15.
good
Yeah.
years and you have 25% ROI or something crazy like that,
Yeah,
you're
like-
like, oh, it always the cap has to be higher.
Like how much of the
Right.
field believes that they're actually winning a lot more than they really are. you know?
Yeah. That which is a fair point, but I think we have enough data compiled collectively where when a guy like Ike says 10% max, I believe him.
Yeah.
I don't think like he's being hyperbolic. I imagine he's probably looked at, some sample of the field over the course of the last 8 to 10 years. And we can draw reasonable conclusions from that, even with the outliers of like 2012 to
I was
maybe
gonna say,
2015.
Like 10
where,
years ago, the ROIs were much higher than they are today.
Right.
Right. So the average is somewhere
I
in the
wonder.
middle.
I wonder if there's also like a self-selection effect where the guys who run the backing stables, if they have a bad few years, they just conclude that the ROIs are really low and then they get out. And then the guys who actually stick around are the guys who've either run super hot with their stable in previous years, so they're convinced the ROIs are actually higher than what they are, or the guys who are new to doing it and haven't yet figured out that the
Right.
ROIs are not that high.
Right.
And those two categories of backers keep the entire ecosystem going.
Yep.
And the ones who know that the ROIs are low just get out,
Could be very fair.
It could be that.
Yeah, I will say that the half dozen to dozen people who play these routinely that I've spoken to, I haven't heard a number floated above 10.
Yeah.
And that just kind of brings me back to the question of like, well, if you did have a year,
Why?
no, not why. I understand why. I fully do, because like, what's the alternative? They can't go to Bobby's room.
Yeah, same.
Like they've chosen their path, kind of thing. But And also, it's got to be.
They can play. They can play. They can.
It's got to be really hard to go to Choctaw after spending 2 weeks in Jeju, living in a hotel suite.
Yeah. That's what Nick said. I'm saying like we're playing in the biggest, highest games you can play in. We're staying in amazing places, mostly for free because you're playing so much rake. So yeah, it is hard to go from that to downgrade to
a guy like Nick's a great example
no offense
too.
To Choctaw.
Yeah, but a guy like Nick is a great example too. Right. He's done really well coaching. So it's like he makes a big name for himself where people aspire to be like him and be in the same arena. And that allows him to charge a reasonable hourly.
There's opportunity outside of just
the real answer
for sure.
They make, you play high stakes, you do well, have a name for yourself.
And then you monetize it
and
in a different way.
Do coaching and get paid $1,000 an hour or whatever.
Yeah, so there's some passive income, there's some active income, but there are definitely ways that they could supplement. Maybe I don't know, man. I don't know what the ceiling is for a high roller who's out there like starting a coaching business or doing whatever the case may be. But it's reasonable that the ROI might be, or the hourly, I should say, might be like 2 to 3x what it is playing high rollers.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Because you're selling a skill, like you're teaching a skill set versus just like playing.
I mean,
like if you're a high roller,
kind of makes sense.
If you're
maybe
hourly,
this is why you don't see high stakes cash coaches, because it'd be really hard.
I mean, if you were to do coaching for someone or whatever.
I'm saying like you see on scale a lot of the best in the world from the MTT arena be willing to coach. Yeah. And to do so at pretty reasonable rates, whether it's a reasonable hourly or to do like courses and, quote unquote, put all the trade secrets out there. There's a lot of them.
I think because variance is higher.
Yeah, variance is higher and they need the active income a lot more. But what I'm getting at is like if you ask the guy who's beating 200, 400 with an hourly of like 1,600,
right?
How can he ever replicate that to make it worth his time on the coaching front?
He's not going to go coach for $1,000 an hour when he can play for $1,600 an hour.
Right, especially if it's going to potentially harm his hourly.
Yeah, I guess the way that would work, at least for some sort of incentive, would be to have some sort of deal where the coach has action in the person they're coaching.
Yeah, it's possible. CFP, you're right. On the cash side, CFPs are the way that we see it executed the most. But most of the CFPs, I don't want to like speak poorly about them, but most of them are like pretty predatory.
Well, I guess this is the difference-ish when it comes to like...
There's a trust issue there too.
Yeah, well, live. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's, I guess, the difference. If you're coaching someone, you're probably coaching them with a stake of sorts and getting a more passive-ish income that way.
Yeah.
Where if your student is playing 40 hours a week and you coach 2 hours a week or whatever, passively, you're doing pretty well for yourself. But with MTTs, like a lot of the good players, like Nicky P saying he's doing coaching for a lot of guys that play at the studio. The guys that play at the studio are smart and they're running their own stuff themselves anyways.
Right.
So at some point, they'll probably try to find some sort of close-ish answer. And if he can get paid like a pretty good hourly to do that, like he also just like loves the game, makes a lot of sense to find coaching in that way too. Just because
and, the courses are largely geared for people who aren't playing high rollers.
Imagine that. Imagine if you did coaching, but you had to give a piece of your coaching to your investors.
Right.
Like I'm playing Tritons and stuff. Like, here's some coaching money. It goes to makeup.
Yeah. That would be pretty fucking brutal, to be quite honest.
Yeah, like, hey, man, here you go. Here's your 20%.
But yeah, I mean, coming full circle to what Hunt kind of initially threw a jab at with Daniel, taking shots at us prior. I took the opportunity to quote tweet him because I think like what his points were very valid, but the biggest takeaway I wanted to make, and we get this a lot, are the people who like try to qualify or disqualify people based off of their Hendon mob. And
hashtag Hendon snubs.
Hashtag chainsaw.
I mean, Kessler did it obviously with Jans.
He's done it with a lot of people.
Sure.
Did it with me, for fuck's sake.
Right.
Graph Tech one's legendary though.
It happens
that
to me.
Legendary.
It happens to me a lot too, which is funny because like Kessler would never, because I have more in Hendon mob scores than he does. But it's always funny to me, like, I'll post something and people will say, you're not shit. You've never won a bracelet. Like your Hendon mob's only 4 million. You're not even in the top 100. How dare you coach? Blah, 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 blah. And it's always just like such a chuckle that like this whole other ecosystem could possibly exist where people are just playing cash for a living.
Right.
Like who would ever think it? Right. What a crazy thing. But I quote tweeted and I said, every time someone references a player's Hendon mob to qualify or disqualify their ability in this space, just kindly reference this thread and understand that MTTs are the mirage.
Right.
And the big reason for this is because I think that it's an insane barometer to hold people to to judge whether or not they know anything about poker, right? Like, imagine asking Barry Bonds' hitting coach how many home runs he has in the league, right? Or Tiger Woods' swing coach what his lowest score on the PGA Tour is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like none of that could ever possibly matter. We're in a data-driven industry where, like, either you understand the moving parts of this incredibly complex system and you're able to articulate it well to people who don't understand it nearly as much, or you don't. And there are a lot of people that don't, but play incredibly well. You know, like, man, I'll buy all of Jesse Lonis's action, but I'm not going to hire him to coach me. And that's no slight against Jesse. It's just you can't teach what he does. You know, he's just instinctually there and locked in some sort of capacity. And it's not that he may not know things. It just may be more so that he doesn't have the conscious competence. It just may all be subconscious competence.
It's like
where
you have to be there.
Yeah, he's just operating off of feel and instincts where it's like principally he knows what the fuck is going on, but he can't really communicate it all that well. So he's not going to translate into the best coach. When it reminds me like a year, whenever the airball thing was, I guess 2 years ago now, when Lynn hopped on that space and tried to just like shred us apart. And she started going through our coaching roster one by one and starts with Brokus. And she goes, Andrew Brokus, 800,000 in career earnings. Okay, I'm sure it's all profit too. Next. And it's like, this guy literally wrote one of the books on theory that may be one of the best books in modern time. Like, it's so abundantly clear that he's not just qualified, but overqualified. And I replied to somebody whenever DNegs was trashing us, kind of calling our roster out, and I was defending them. Somebody said something about like Hunt having 700K in Hendon Mob earnings. I was like, first of all, you're disqualifying everything that he's done online, which he spent over a decade doing.
Yeah, 2.5 million, by the way.
Right.
Just so everyone knows.
Just throw it out there. Yeah. And then secondarily, like I pulled up the Hendon Mobs of 3 people who have written theory books in the last decade that are thought to be like the best entry points for beginners. Jonda, Brokus, and
Mike Acevedo.
Yeah, Acevedo.
Yeah.
I pull all 3 of them up. Jonda has like 1,200 in earnings.
1,200?
Acevedo is like sub 800K and Brokus is 800K.
Yeah.
And I said, would you rather learn from one of these 3 or Kerry Katz, who has 40 million in lifetime earnings? It's not fucking close, right?
No.
And it's it frustrates me to no end because it's like, I agree that there needs to be some methodology in measuring a coach's worth. But I largely disagree when these large platforms like DNegs or whoever else come out and start slandering people that have dedicated as much, if not more time to coaching than they have to playing. And when you say like, why would you want to learn from someone like him instead of someone like Foxen? It's like, because Foxen dedicates all his time to playing. And I'm not saying he's not a good coach. He might be wonderful. I don't know. I assume that, if he's able to even communicate 10% of what he knows about the game, he's going to be a fantastic coach. But what I do know is that Brokus and Hunt and Acevedo and a lot of others are dedicating the vast majority of their time into distilling these metrics and principles of the game into an easily digestible course or lesson or conversation that somebody who's trying to get better can easily understand. Obviously, I just wanted to throw that out there because you're here, and I feel like I never get a chance to defend you in person. But
well, that's good to know.
It's also very relevant.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think what's weird is this happens across so many domains as well, right? You see it in all sports. Like, people are always looking for one number that defines how good somebody is. Like a great example of an area where this is a really stupid idea is in soccer, which obviously I pay a lot of attention to. When it's a player whose job is to score goals, you can judge them by how many goals they score.
Right.
But when it's a player who's a defender, their job is to stop the other guys scoring goals. There's no number that you can put to someone's performance, no individual number that you can highlight that tells you how good that player is. So if you look at the history of soccer, almost every great defensive player is massively underappreciated because there's no number people can point to that says how great this player was.
Yeah.
And with offensive players, it's exactly the opposite. It's like so-and-so scored 150 goals in their career. Oh, they must have been a great player. When in reality, there's a bunch of guys who scored 400 goals, you know, and it's like the number is not the point, but people gravitate towards the number.
This will be lost on all of us here, but I was at the table yesterday and somebody was talking about Alex Ovechkin, who just became the all-time goal leader in the NHL. And my friend goes, he's the greatest hockey player of all time. I go, buddy, he's not in the top 10. He's literally not even in the fucking conversation. He's not even in the top 10 all-time scorers. Like Sidney Crosby, who's played 100 fewer games, is 2 spots above him.
You know, like someone like me, I would be like, wait, he's not in the top 10 because I don't know anything about hockey. Right?
Exactly.
All I know is what I see. Right.
Your point is exactly the one we're trying to make.
And this is what I want to say. Like this is what it feels so disingenuous when someone like DNegs or Kessler or Lynn try to take somebody's Hendon mob and then compare it and say that this makes a good player. Like if it's someone who's
particularly because they're latching onto that because they know nothing else about the person.
Right. But like if I'm like someone who just very, very casually watches poker, doesn't really know anything about the industry, the space or anything, and I see Hendon Mob and I see someone has $40 million, they're like, oh, that person's worth $40 million. Right. They have $40 million in the bank, or they have half of that at least, right? But we all know that's not true. Right. But then they go ahead and use that as a metric. It just like if you're one of the top people in the space, you have to know that is not the way to measure someone's coaching ability or anything like that. So it's just disingenuous.
People pick them up. People pick the number that makes themselves look good, right? I mean, that's how it works. Like it's marketing. It's Negreanu and Kessler and these people. They have Hendon mobs that they feel good about because they think it makes them look more skilled, and therefore they're happy to hold that up as a metric that says this is meaningful.
Imagine saying that Bill Belichick is a shitty coach because he never played in the NFL. It just doesn't make sense.
I'm pretty sure he played in the NFL.
He did not.
Really?
Nope.
Thought he was. Did he play defense in the NFL?
was prepared for this.
Don't make any more bets with me, man.
No. We'll get to that. Don't rush me. You'll get your.
Don't bury the lead.
But that's gonna have to be tomorrow.
Bill Belichick never played.
You'll get your shine.
He played college ball, but never professional.
Okay, that makes sense. Another good example of this, and I think this really speaks to the confusion that can occur in poker. And there's nothing that can really be done with it. Like I've personally just accepted it, and it's another reason why like I have less and less interest in the training space day over day. So a great example of this, right? We did 2 or 3 seasons of Poker Out Loud strictly on Squid Game, or some variation thereof, Squid Game, stand-up game, whatever. Yeah. I've also been playing stand-up for 2+ years, right? Went on the WPT stream for 3 days, won almost $1 million over the course of those 3 sessions, playing 100, 200 squid. Turn around, play another 3-day Squid Game in Poker Go, which it hasn't come out yet, but spoiler, I win all the money there again, right? And I had friends who were on both, or at least watched both, right? Now, mind you, and this is where the quote unquote qualified eye of the people that we give credence to or credibility to in this space really fails, right? And it's kind of similar to what's happening with Rogan right now on his pod, where he's having a lot of unqualified people on to quote unquote just have a conversation. And then they say this wildly outlandish shit, but it's predicated off the fact of like, I'm very interested in this topic, so I spend a lot of time talking about it and research, and that's the way it's presented to the audience. And then when they get called out on it because Rogan doesn't give any pushback, they say, I'm just a comedian, I'm just a conspiracy theorist, whatever the case may be, right?
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, I'm just asking questions, but right? So very similar in this space where it's like, I don't hate to keep using an example because he fucked up, but like DNegs is a perfect example of this, right? He just spouts off because he believes in his mind he's qualified to do so. He thinks he's done the work on all of these things to be able to point out where somebody is bad. My friends that I'm speaking about also, they've played enough squid where they felt qualified to have an opinion. And the thing is that like, I'm not shy about saying it. I've studied squid very deeply. I've gone so far as to like model a lot of the different scenarios and figure out where EV is being exchanged, how much is even available in the format. and what it looks like at optimal as opposed to what it looks like when it's broken and everybody's playing like shit. So I mash these 25 to 30 hours worth of squid, right? And in the first one on WPT, both of my friends walked away saying, like, you're such an insufferable winner. You ran so fucking good. You have no idea what you're doing any more than us. You know, like, we got really unlucky. You got really lucky. Fast forward a month. We play the squid again. I smash again. I play exactly the same way. And the response is, man, I went over a lot of these spots with Brewer, and you're playing fucking perfectly. And it's like, yeah,
this conversation, yeah.
Like, you go,
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And it's like, did you study between December and now? It's like, no, I studied 18 months ago when this first came up.
I used my brain and I tried really hard.
And yeah, and it's like, well, what did you study? It's like, I didn't have any material. I created it because that's how you fucking approach the academic side of this game, right? You treat it as a science. You hypothesize things. You test them. You work through the scientific method over and over again. And the issue with the coaching space is, one, there's nobody out there qualifying or disqualifying people. Like, there's no service,
right?
You know, there's no certificate that you have to
Can't
have.
get board certified.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not peer review.
And then, well, the thing is when it comes to peer review, the wrong people are speaking up.
Right.
You know, like we talked a lot with people who have a qualified voice, and they just don't ever get into that mudslinging because why would you?
Peer review is some guy on Twitter, you know?
Yeah.
Some guy with an egg profile picture just saying they think you suck.
Right. And so now it does distill down to like one of two things, your Hendon mob or your likability. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. But just know that the space is going to be wrought with people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's largely what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of people who are better at marketing than they are at actual, conveying ideas and generating new theories and new concepts. You know, like Hunt will never get the credit that he deserves.
No,
never. I'm saying this retroactively, but like there are courses on our site, which you can see for free now, where he was so far ahead of the game when it came to risk premiums, when it came to, adjusting the ICM model as the field whittled down. And I'm not even saying that like he was perfect and got it all right. I'm just saying with the trend in the way that the MTT space has moved, he was early to it. Mm-hmm. The same way Pads was early to the PKO stuff. You know, like if you go back and watch Pads' course on Run It Once, 2.5, 3 years ago now, something along those lines.
3 years,
his stuff on PKO is as relevant or more so now today than it was, 30 months ago.
Right.
And it's like that stuff will never get the actual recognition that it deserves because eventually the whole community knows it to be a concept and they don't care about the origin of it. And the origin's largely stuff behind a paywall where only a couple hundred people had access to it in early times. Mm-hmm. And if you weren't an early adopter or you didn't move on the information quickly enough, now it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
You're just trying to play catch up, So the whole space itself is, it's very inefficient. And I think that's a big reason why the Wizard is able to come in and just own the space. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so. I think that they're doing just about everything right.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and nobody can challenge the Wizard. You can't. I mean, it's tough, right? It's tough to be like, okay, whatever you plug, some sort of solve in the Wizard, and it comes out. And people aren't saying that's wrong.
I mean, there are spots.
There are situations people.
I think more so now.
But I mean, I'm talking about like overall. Of course, there are spots, but like
compared to what else is available, you're right.
Yeah. Broad strokes, Wizard is great, and then when you want to get a little bit more
super
precise
nuanced,
and look at some suiting effects or combos or whatever, like GTO Labs kind of doing a lot of new stuff, which is mostly MTT driven. Where like Ike has a course on multi-way stuff, which seems pretty interesting. Smart guy, talks about smart things. So it's weird because there's like more attempts into the training space, but also the Wizard is really good and occupies really good.
I think you're right.
So.
I think there's going to be a big pocket for nuance. The difficulty with nuance is that it doesn't scale well.
No,
right? It's the broad strokes that scale the best.
It's almost like if high rollers are trying to study, this is what they're studying.
Exactly.
Versus like if you're playing WSOP 300 and you just want to learn how to like c-bet and check back sometimes, you can look at a Wizard.
Right. So the Wizard's aim is to capture the widest net and work that arena. So like maybe it's 85% of the consumer space. And then something like GTO Labs is going to carve out a niche in the nuance, right? And you're right. Like it might be the tool that all the high rollers use.
Yeah. And
that's okay if you start charging as such, right? But that's really hard because there's so many other tools that are cheaper. So you have to hit this sweet spot where like you still are attractive to everybody. Yeah. But you're getting paid your fair share because it's high minds that are using it. Basically, you're doing the work for the high rollers.
It's interesting because like there's Wizard on one side, and then there's Lab that's coming up with their stuff on the other side, and then Octopi's kind of in the middle where they're doing stuff with like the Vault and the database for Final Tables
Wizard
Live.
launched the same thing too,
and Wizard's launching the same kind of thing. So the difference is going to be sim accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
And price point, like Octopi's cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Wizards is based off the database though.
Well, Wizard...
Right, they have the actual spots. It's like a trainer.
The individual hand. It's not a trainer.
Oh, it's not a trainer?
Well, you can train on it, but
okay.
They have they have solved every hand from
certain
a variety of certain specific final tables.
Right. So it is just like a database.
That's what the Octopi does for the Poker Go.
Yeah,
right.
If you look at stuff, it'll be done like event 1 and 2 I think are done.
The cool thing about how Wizard does it is you can actually view the stream of the hand within the Wizard browser.
Right. I think same for Octopi.
Oh, it does?
I think so for Poker Go stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, to be fair, like this is Octopi's idea.
Yeah, I guess
Wizard
it was.
is copying, but that's the nature of the space as well, right?
Yeah.
Things that work are going to get copied and grown very, very quickly.
While we're talking about coaching, I got to segue into promoting my shit.
Do it.
I gotta promote my stuff that I'm doing today. So 6 p.m. tonight Pacific time, I'm doing a free webinar. It's all about we talked about ICM and how I was ahead of the curve on some stuff. So I'm going to continue trying to do that. The title is the ABCs of ICM at the WSOP. So the idea is that it's to set up for just practicing for WSOP specific ICM stuff for this summer. If anyone wants to go ahead and sign up and get the Zoom link for this evening, they can just go to, it's completely free. They can go to pokerfluency.com and they will see the sign up link in there. So just drop your email, you'll get the link, and I'll see you guys all at 6 p.m. hopefully. So that's going to be something I'm looking forward to, and got plenty more stuff to come from Poker Fluency as well soon. So I'm still out there in the coaching streets, despite the fact that we're kind of going down with the ship here.
Salute.
Yeah. Bad times.
You're a free agent again. It's okay.
I guess I am a free agent, or I'm not a completely free agent because I still work with
an
Wizard,
independent contractor.
I'm an independent contractor. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of free agents, I owe Guapo $100. Congratulations! I can't believe you wanted odds. You are still scumbag, by the way.
Hey, listen. When I saw how confident you were that he wasn't going to get fired,
okay, that's fair.
I was like, oh shit. Well, maybe I should ask for odds.
Right.
And then
don't say like, oh shit, like maybe he knows something I don't. No. You were like, this is a sweet spot to get him to lay me 1.5 to 1.
The problem is you are also very, very confident.
As if you know exactly what I'm thinking. I'm literally thinking, oh shit, Matt got the better end of this. Let me see if I can get odds so that at least we can even things out.
Oh man. I wish it just came down to.
A win is a win, and
I wish it came down to confidence. So speaking of free agents, Nacho's back on the market. Yep. Very unfortunate turn of affairs.
In a video $100 Nacho money anymore.
Nacho money.
By the way, it also feels a little shitty celebrating too hard because somebody did just lose their job.
That is true.
That's fair.
That is true.
That's fair. I should have won. Then we'd all be better off. In a video statement, Nagy demonstrates the standards that he would like to uphold ACR Poker to. If you're an ambassador and you can't meet these standards of the CEO, just know that you will be let go. There's no getting around this. In all honesty, the statement came from ACR Poker. The CEO, Phil Nagy, says, at ACR Poker, we hold our team to the highest standards of integrity and commitment. Recent comments by team pro Nacho Barbero regarding the use of GTO Wizard have raised serious concerns about his understanding of our security measures and his role as an ambassador. To our knowledge, Nacho has not brought any security concerns or questions to us, either in team pro meetings or through direct communication. As an ambassador, partner, and friend, we expect our team pros to engage with us proactively if they have any concerns about the platform. What is playing?
I have no idea.
I
think
did hear
it's
something too.
That Nagy video.
The Nagy video. We never censor our pros or tell them what to say, but we do expect them to speak truthfully and be well informed about our security efforts so they can represent us and the facts accurately. The nature of these comments reflect a fundamental misalignment with our values As a result, we have decided to part ways with Nacho as an ambassador for ACR Poker. We remain committed to ensuring a positive and secure gaming experience for our community, built on the foundation of trust and respect.
It's fucking
They're
hilarious.
getting much better at these PSAs.
They
by
are,
the way.
but it's
They're
so
getting a lot of
funny.
ChatGPT is really
practice.
good.
It's so funny to fire somebody while also in the same statement saying we don't censor our pros. Like,
Right.
you're firing him for what he said, and
Right.
you're claiming you don't censor them. Like,
Right.
that's like, how do you lack self-awareness to that degree? It's insane.
Well, I mean, that goes without saying.
I
but
mean, it does. It's ACR. We don't expect anything better, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously, this is too little, too late, and it's not that we were rooting for Nacho to get fired. I think this is like really unfortunate that they're making an example of him. It's very obvious that what it takes to actually get fired from ACR is, or at least prior to this, seemed impossible. You have to actually cheat on the company, like DePaulo did for a 10K bag. But in this particular instance, like it's frustrating as a person watching, because it's like, I like Nacho. I don't want to see him get fired. I don't want to see him made an example of. Obviously, we have a lot of fucking jokes because the site itself is a joke, not because like, Nacho is this terrible human being who needs to be villainized or anything along those lines. But it's like, to fire him and then to have Ebony just like kind of strutting through Triton, hanging out, saying like, it was all just memes. And, I don't know, man, we're a long way away from he's just a goofball.
Yeah.
It's like when the initial statement is literally like, that Nacho, he's just a goofball. He just posted something he shouldn't have.
When he does something he's not supposed to do, he's a goofball until he talks bad about ACR as a company, and then now he's not a goofball anymore. Now it's a very serious thing, and he needs to be fired.
To be fair, I don't even know that it's because, like, he didn't really go hard on them. He just said, like, I don't even think they're trying.
He said something they didn't like in a way.
Honestly, it's
that made
Ike's
it seem
fault.
like
It's not. No,
I'm just kidding.
if you go back and watch the original clip, Nacho just brought it up out of the blue.
Oh, I thought Ike brought it up.
No, Ike like just asked him like, I'm really surprised that
Okay.
they you just had GTO Wizard up and ACR is not checking for it.
Right.
And then he replied and said, I don't even think they're trying, bro.
Yeah.
But what preempted that was him just like out of the blue, just looking at Ike and going, I should have never fucking posted. They would have never known. And I think what he meant,
he's thinking it.
I think what he meant, that's the other thing. Like, I think that was a little bit misinterpreted. I think I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. This is a very charitable interpretation. But I think what he meant when he said they would have never known is they would have never known if I was actually marketing for the Venom or not.
Oh, right.
I think, giving him the most charitable interpretation, that's what he was implying. But the easy takeaway is like, they would have never known I had GTO Wizard up in the background. And then Ike says, like, I'm surprised they weren't checking for it. And it's like, bro, I don't even think they're trying.
Right.
And it's like, clearly they're not. I just sent you a tweet that Pads put out from last week. And it's a screenshot of a text message that says, Coin is sick. I played a spot on ACR and I wanted to look at a Wiz spot. And Coin paused to make me close Wizard before it would continue dealing. And it's like, okay, so clearly there is prevention out there.
Right. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. Like, sure, you could still work around and have a different computer or, be on your whatever. But point is,
attempts
the
being
more
there.
hoops that you force people to jump through, the less cheating that will occur and the less scalable it becomes.
Of course.
So it's like this statement is very much too little too late, in my opinion. Like, just go do something then. Prove that he's wrong. Don't fire him. Don't silence the guy who's on your team, who's kind of calling into question of like, well, why aren't you doing something?
Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes, bro.
Tell him.
T Swift, Brian LaManna.
What a scum.
And more importantly, give me my fucking $100 back. God damn it.
I'll give you action. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know if you want, like, it seems like every bet
He's so sharp.
against you, he beats you.
I should just bet against his UFC picks.
You're not a good prop better, though.
Yeah, I don't think you'll do well either.
Just go double or nothing on who the next ACR pro to get fired is going to be.
Like a death pool.
Who the hell knows, right?
It's crazy.
Who knows what could happen?
It's crazy. They're all very quiet these days.
Yeah,
I haven't seen
Nobody wants to say anything.
not a lot of Rob Kuhn or
I don't know, man. Kuhn's in the streets. He just called out who's the gambling guy? The guy that wants to gamble with
Perry?
everybody. Yeah.
No, he's on a whole different path, man.
Okay.
I haven't seen him tweet about ACR in months, but I've seen him in every Sean Perry elf
Okay,
space
that's what it is, Sean.
for like
Sorry.
the last month. He's just like he's fully immersed in whatever the hell's going on in the in the betting streets these days. Oh man. Well, that was a riveting show.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good to have you back, Hunt.
4 more
Yeah,
of these.
good to be here for the last time. I'm sad to see this office go, but it's been a good 7 years. It's been a long 7 years.
I
but a
think
good 7
that's
years.
why that little feeling I'm having in my belly that's bubbling. I think I'm gonna miss this office
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
nice.
I
place.
really
office
like
is
having
pretty cool.
somewhere
Yeah.
to come to, just feel like I'm getting work done, even if I never actually did. I'm gonna miss it. Now I just have to walk upstairs. Like that doesn't cut it.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard getting work done at home.
That's the truth. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We're going to be back at noon tomorrow, as well as every other day this week. We've lost Conrad for the duration of the show. Hopefully, we're going to have him call in. We're going to do something very special on Friday. It's going to be a longer show than normal, so be sure to strap in, and we'll love to hear from you guys for the final episode. Until then, we'll see you guys at noon Pacific tomorrow.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.